Hello, I'm Dave Reilly. This program is going to be running us into the 4th of July holidays, so I thought that our project for this time would be a bit more patriotic, and it's going to be an American flag. This flag is going to be a fairly straightforward project. It's not going to take an awful lot of tools, but it is an interesting project insofar as it's going to prepare you for perhaps more advanced projects in the future. Now, if you look at the project here, it is more of a ribbon. Looking at it from the side, you can see the flow of the work. This is only going to be 3/4 of an inch thick, so it doesn't take an awful lot of material. It's actually 7 by 11 inches by 3/4 inch stock is all that you're going to need. But the ribbon aspect is very interesting because you run across this in a lot of your carving. For instance, if you take the ribbon aspect to a much more elaborate, this is still the same idea of a ribbon. It flows through the wood just as your flag carving is going to flow through the wood. So you can think of this carving today as going to be a more preparatory carving for the things that perhaps we can do for you in the future. Okay, now it's time to get started. As we did with the 4-leaf clover in the previous issues, we glued it down to with a piece of newspaper in between our work and our support board. This way it holds it firmly and it's very easy to get up and get off. First thing to do is to define where some of our lines are going to be. In this case, we're going to just pencil in the area where our fold is going to be. Now, sometimes it's awfully hard to determine how a fold or how a curve should go in your work before you're starting to carve it. It's hard to tell just from photographs. Use modeling clay. The clay that the children use in school. Get the type that does not harden so you can keep reusing it. In this case, I've rolled off just a thin strip, and now I can bend it to following the contour that I want. And now I can see very easily how the folds go, where the material will be in my carving. Now this wood is very soft. This is basswood, as I frequently use. You can use any woods that you want. You'll notice that I have switched to a mallet. Mallets, you can remove an awful lot of material and very, very quickly. It's really, in this soft wood, it's a matter of choice. The nice part of the handwork, aside from being quiet, it's rather peaceful. It's a marvelous stress reliever. What I'm going to do here is to just draw in a reference line to keep me honest. It's pretty easy to get so carried away that you're going to forget where you are and then realize that you don't have any wood left. I'll do the same on both sides. Getting down to the curves that I want, I've switched to a much larger 30 millimeter number 5. But as you could see from the other carving, all this does is cover more territory at one time. If you have a smaller tools, you'll just take a little longer and take little lighter cuts. All right, now you notice that I have done nothing with the point where it does the folding. I wanted to get the basic curves formed first, and then that helps me to locate where that curve will go in the fold. First of all, as you noticed before, I penciled in where that fold is going to be. The next thing is to start and form its shape. I like to start with a knife and just make a stop cut along the entire line. The reason for this is that when I come back with a V-tool and start making the fold, it eliminates a lot of the chip out. This is just my way of doing it. And we're going to start wasting away some of this extra material now. Now here is a critical point you have to watch. Let me show you on the original how this area tapers down. This is a nice smooth curve that goes out. It's very easy to forget about this, start cutting down in this area here, and you find you have no wood left to get this curve. So this is the point now where we're going to establish this angled section. You notice I used my left hand so I didn't have to turn the carving. Now it's the time to pencil in where this curve is going to go. Now I can start and take some of that material away. Now with my V, now I can start a little more serious undercutting. Now this will complete the roughing out of the carving. Obviously this is a representation of a flag. I'm not trying to be very detailed in it at all. If I tried to be very detailed and got the 13 stripes and the 50 stars, they'd be very small and would be quite a challenge to do in this size. I prefer to start with a stop cut using the standard carving knife. You could use a V-tool, but you're going to be running into problems with the grain, and unless your tool is very, very sharp, it's better to do this with a knife. Keep the knife at a very low angle. If you keep it at a high angle, it could start to wander. Whereas if you keep it at a low angle, it has a tendency to track much better along your curve. All right, you can see we've started the cutting here of the ribbon or the stripes. One thing to remember is that these stripes, one goes underneath the other. Now this is not realistic, of course, on a real flag, but what it's going to do, it'll give you a little shadowing and a little depth, and it makes the surface much more interesting. This is very straightforward. We've already made a cut, a little stop cut with the knife. Now it's a matter of just cutting this away up to that stop cut. You can see the stop cut did not have to be very deep. Okay, we've roughed all this out. Now there's one little problem that you may run into in this area down in here, and that is where the grain is changing. So let me show you what happens here. I have this surface through here is completed. So now I'm just going to come from this side. And if you've done much of this, you're going to be saying to yourself, yeah, I know what's going to happen now. And there it is. I'm starting to go up into the grain, and it's going to start to tear out. I will then come back, try to meet that, getting it the best I can. But if I leave any little areas there that you just can't seem to catch quite well, take a shallow gouge. This is a number 4, and you can come right across and clean that out, and it'll have a nice surface. This is the time to get a good, nicely tooled surface on all the areas, and then when that's done, you can start and work on the stars. We have 15 stars in 3 rows of 5. They should be nicely situated inside this blue field. Remember in grammar school, your stick-in stars, or stick-on stars that you got when your papers were good? Well, this is what we're going to use today. Nowadays, they're self-adhesive, which makes life even easier. So I've scaled this drawing, or this carving, to match the scale of the stars that I found available in a office supply or school supply store. Now it's time to apply the stars. I have the first row here. A few things to remember is the top point of each star should touch the top border of your field. This horizontal area of the stars, arrange the stars so they follow that curve. It'll give a much more pleasing design. Now the next, we'll do the bottom row. A pair of tweezers help. And we just set these in so that the bottom of the star just touches the bottom of your field. And a nice sequence for doing this is do each corner first, such as this. And it's particularly nice because if you make a mistake, you can just peel these off. Then do the center one. And from our previous layout, we do have a center line, so you can use that as your reference. And now we have that. Now, the two final ones, they're easy to align and get nicely centered. And you do the same on this one. For your middle row, following the same technique of arranging them by eye, the corner of the star should touch the border, and then by eye, just drop it in. And you'll follow the same sequence all the way through. I'm going to switch now to a separate block which has a larger star in it. It'll give you a little better view of how to carve the stars themselves. All right, here's the way we carve the stars in. And we're going to use a flat, straight chisel. That's probably the only tool you're going to need for this. And we just make stop cuts, angle the cut slightly away from the edge of the star with the area in the center of the star the deepest. And then a little wedge will pop right out. And then start working your way around. Deep, roll it out. Deep in the center, roll it out. Now you people out there who are chip carvers, you just go right on ahead. Yes, you can do this with chip carving very nicely. Now that you've seen the demonstration for the carving of the stripes and locating and carving of the stars, it's just a matter of more of the same, get a nicely tooled finish over the entire surface. Any sharp features and details is the time to put them in, and you will be done, and it's a matter then to move on to the finishing. Finishing, we don't have much choice in colors. I've used a acrylic enamel for this. You can use a thin wash so that some of the wood grain shows through. It's entirely up to you. So that concludes our carving of a flag. If you have any comments or suggestions for future carving projects, feel free to email us here at the magazine. And don't forget the bragging rights. Any carvings you have, whether projects or not, do send them in and we'll be glad to look at them. Thanks very much. I'm Dave Reilly.
And he thinks about her even now. Wonder where she's been.